this state, we found out two things. Number one, all politics are local. So whatever you're going through in Johnston County, the same thing is happening in Durham County, it's happening in Mecklenburg County, it's happening in Guilford County, it's happening everywhere else. And the second thing we determined was that many of our elected officials do not represent the people who elected them. And that's a bad deal. What we need to do is get better leadership. We need to open up the front door and let some fresh air into this party. Now, if I'm elected to the office of Lieutenant Governor, I have a 100-day plan that I want to institute. The first thing I want to do is join the governor, in expanding the Medicaid plan. What I'd like to do is look at Medicaid the way we ought to look at it. Because all of you who work right now, you pay into Medicare. And that money is taken automatically out of your check. Now, when the government sends those monies back to the state through the revenue sharing plan, there's no reason for a representative to say we don't want to take the money. We got to figure out a way that we're going to reopen those 6 hospitals and clinics that closed because we didn't have the funding necessary to take care of people. Why do I want to do that? Because sickness has no color. And Medicaid will pay 100% despite pre-existing injuries and illnesses. So we need to make sure we get with the governor's office and help fight to expand the Medicaid plan. He's right about one thing. He wouldn't sign off on the bill because he connected it to the budget. And if we don't have Medicaid expanded, then we need to operate under an old budget until the Republicans decide that they want to come along and give people health care that's so sorely needed. Criminal justice reform. I'm going to ask the governor to sign an executive order to eliminate the privatization of our prisons. Because when you privatize the prison, the only way private people can make money in the business of prison is to fill the prison up. And they're filling the prisons up disproportionately with black and brown people. That's not a good idea. That's a bad idea. The other thing is we need to review sentencing guidelines because it's just wrong for a 20-year-old to go to prison for 20 years because he got caught with a bag of marijuana. That makes absolutely no sense. And I'm going to add this. My uncle was a cop. My niece was a cop. I worked vice and narcotics for the city of Durham. My brother just retired from the FBI as a career special agent. And my son is a cop in the High Point Police Department right now. I believe in the rule of law, and I believe in safety in our streets. But you have to review sentencing guidelines to ensure that they're fair. We also need to put more money into our judicial system to make sure we have the proper administration of justice. Without doing that, we're not moving anywhere. We're staying in the same place. I want to send to the governor's office a revised budget that incorporates what the educational funding should look like. Why am I saying that? Because our problem in North Carolina goes all the way back to 1954. When Brown versus the Board of Education was passed, it said separate but equal can never be equal. The North Carolina legislature was headed up by a gentleman at that time named Thomas Pearsall. He came up with the Pearsall plan. And rather than integrate our schools the way the law required, what he did was he kicked the can down the road, formed a subcommittee, and decided that he was going to turn it over to each individual county. So what did you get? You got 100 different ideas on how to implement Brown versus the Board of Education. Julius Chambers, our great civil rights lawyer, sued the state multiple times and won cases, but we have never, ever made any changes. That is the problem with our educational funding right now. When you fast forward to where we are, we have homeschool, we have charter schools, we have patriot schools, we have school choice, and now there's a new one that they're coming out with innovative structure schools for school districts that can't seem to make it or have discipline problems in the schools. All of this in concert was caused by what happened in 1954, and we haven't moved forward on that issue at all. And the last thing I want to do in that first 100 years is talk to the governor about poverty. North Carolina has one of the highest poverty rates in the country. We have 16 counties that have a poverty rate in excess of 21%. Even our queen city, Charlotte, North Carolina, the poverty rate has risen by over 400% in the last 5 years. In other words, we're not paying much attention to those areas. What we need to do is we need to take 4 years, get 4 counties per year. Then let's put some money in there. Let's partner with the county and the various cities in those areas. Let's rebuild the infrastructure. Let's put some fiber optic wiring in the roadways. Me and my wife have traveled this state, and there's places where you go in rural North Carolina where you can't even use a cell phone. You can't reach a satellite or a tower. You see, we need to rebuild that infrastructure. I want to make sure that we bring sales, marketing, and advertising to those areas. Do a global sort of thing, not just a local thing, but a global thing to bring industry in there to sustain businesses that can allow those people to grow as a community. I want small business grants tied to this because there are a lot of kids in college that go to school and then they can't come back because there's no jobs there. Then the last thing I'm going to ask him to do in that first 100 days is put money into a budget as a part of this bill to make sure that we're able to provide money for rural North Carolina and our farmers. These are ideas that are mandatory with where we are. My time is up, but my promise and my commitment to you is this. If you'll vote for me, you'll get somebody that'll do something. Don't believe the hype when you talk to representatives that say, well, I'm in the legislature, I submitted this and I submitted that. It hasn't had any effect, whatever you submitted. And what I'm after is making sure that we not have empty promises. We want solutions. Thank you all very much.